Hello, everybody. So, welcome to Behind Enemy Lines with me and Mr. Mike Lauber. Um, so, we're going to be regularly on X America News. Mike, you could talk a little bit about that. I think Patriot, unfortunately, Patriot TV had his demise, right, Mike? Oh, can't hear you, bro. So while we're waiting for him, um, we'll talk a little bit about that. So tonight we're gonna talk about a number of different topics. One of them is Hollywood and the tariffs that Mr. Trump's putting upon Hollywood. I worked in the film business, so we're gonna talk. I know that pretty intimately. I was in that for a long time. And then Mike has a guest on who I'm excited about, Relentless Bill. He's another old guy like me that's supposed to be fun, and he's a East Coast version. So and he's seen on Newsmax and all. You could do your bio for my guest because I heard about you for a while from Mike, and I'm glad that you came on to join us. So I'm excited about that, and we're going to have a conversation about some different topics and stuff. And before we get started, I just want to make an announcement about my co-host and my good friend Paul Drabick. And Paul Drabick, so Mike would do Tuesdays and then Paul would do Thursdays. Well, Mike's going to do Tuesday and Thursdays now. Thank God he was able to jump in here. And now that we're on X America News and we're supposed to do the same thing, when we're on Patriot TV. They wanted us to do 2 shows a week. And unfortunately, Paul has a very young family, 2 and 4-year-old. Summer's coming up. He's got so much going on with his job and other things that he couldn't commit to the 2 days a week. But he will be a special guest. He will be a co-host. He will fill in when Mike can't make it. So he's not gone. He's just out in the
He's just got a
shadows.
lot on his plate at the moment.
Yeah. So I just want to let you know that he's not gone. He'll be back here. He'll be a co-host from time to time. So don't worry about that. So, Mike, what do you want to say? Anything about X American News and a little bit we're talking about, and then you can talk about our buddy Relentless Bill Robinson.
Well, we'll start with Relentless Bill. He's a great guy. I've worked with him before on a number of different projects. Him and I went over to Belgium together to help make Europe great again. He's worked with Newsmax for a long time as a writer over at Huffington Post, one of the few, the brave, the people that can see the world for what it is. And Bill, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing great, Michael. Hey, Terry, thanks for having me on.
Thank you. We got to share war stories, but go ahead there, Mr. Mike.
Yeah, well, I guess let's go ahead and dive into our first topic here because we got a lot to say on this anyway. Trump, through Hollywood a Lifeline, proposes 100% tariff on foreign films. Now, I don't know if this is enough to really save Hollywood. They got to stop doing remakes and reboots and just making trash out there. But this is a lifeline nonetheless. Even it's going to be up to them, though, to start producing real film, real cinema again to save Hollywood and save the American film industry. I don't know if this is enough to do it. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I think I just love this tariffs thing. I love everything that it's about. It's not what everybody's whining and shrieking about on the left. It's totally different. They have no understanding of finance or economics. And it's just so what I like about it is it happens so quickly. All of a sudden, people stop making movies out of the United States. They're like, wait, hold up that cruise. Stop the plane tickets. Don't let them board. They're going to stay here. They're going to make a movie here. I just love that. And I can hardly wait until James Woods and John Voight and Dean Cain and all these people, Gina. I can hardly wait till all these people jump on board and start talking about how great it's going to be and how making movies great again is going to be just another cultural way. Trump destroys the left and gets America back into firing on all cylinders. It's true. Hollywood has been turning out garbage for a long time. And it's about time that, Trump just went in and said, he's not even going to talk to people and say, can't you make better movies? Can't you make movies like Angel Studios? No, he just slaps a tariff on them and that's it. Everything's made in the U.S. So I just love it.
Yeah. Speaking of James Woods, I worked on a movie with him. Loved that guy before I even knew this politics stuff, right? Because we'll talk about it later. I worked with so many assholes. We'll talk a little bit about it. James Woods was awesome, but when you see him the first time we walk on the set, you see him, he kind of looks like he could be mean, right? And he's not. He's fucking awesome, man. He's awesome. I love that guy.
I know. He's got such a great Twitter account too. I mean, he tweets He tweets like a madman. He's great. He crosses all lines. He's behind enemy lines, and then he comes back and starts firing at the enemies from behind our lines. So he's a great guy, that James Woods.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know that this is really going to be enough to save Hollywood, because at the end of the day, their biggest problem isn't that just that they're, part of this tariff is to prevent Hollywood studios going to France. Like somebody earlier today was just telling me that they just shot a movie in France and they pass it off as Chicago because it was cheaper to shoot it in Paris, to take those jobs overseas than to work here in Chicago, which to me just like sounds insane. But I don't know if this tariff is really enough to save Hollywood, because it isn't so much that their competition is foreign films other than U.S. studios going overseas to shoot there and screw the American taxpayer and screw the government, not paying the tax on anything that was done over there. But it's a lack of creativity. It's brain drain. They've been making garbage films where they try to indoctrinate the country with wokeness. Nobody wants to see it anymore. I mean, that's the big problem. It isn't that we have all these big hits coming out of, I don't know, China or wherever else. It's not that they have box office competition. Yeah, every once in a while, like a foreign film scores big and does well here, but it's really just that Hollywood's making crap.
Yeah, so I'll go back to 1995. So you just talked about Paris, right? And that was still in.
Bring up some of your pictures here.
Yeah, so I worked on Hollywood punished us, Chicago unions, back in 1990, around 95, right? And the film Chicago, right? You guys saw? I think it was a musical. It was filmed in Toronto, Canada. The film Chicago was filmed in Toronto, Canada. For those of you who don't know, and I didn't know that, I'd never been there, but supposedly it looks very similar to Chicago. So they started filming there because it was cheaper. They also punished us because of our unions. And so I'll tell this story. I could talk about some of those pictures, who they are and stuff later. But so what happened was the Hollywood producers came to. I was a motion picture studio mechanic, electrician, and a grip, right? So under the motion picture studio mechanics, you got electricians, grip, set props, location manager, special effects, all these different types of production type positions. Then you got Screen Actors Guild, which is for actors and stuntmen. And I later got my SAG card as a stuntman. Unfortunately, not full time. I would have still been doing that, but before the movies left us, I was fortunate enough to get in some movies. So what happened is Hollywood said, "Hey, Chicago, we would like you guys to lower your hourly rate by 25% for a TV pilot." So do you guys know what a TV pilot is?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
TV pilot's like, so you want to go syndicate, say, hey, we come up with an idea. We're 3 producers. All right, let's see if someone's going to buy it, right? That means you want to get Kraft or Miller or whatever. So you make a little pilot, right? And you see this TV pilot. And you want to mitigate your risk, meaning you're not sure if it's going to take off. And I forgot what the percentage of them that turn into a syndicated series, like ER, that was here for like 15 years, right?
Oh,
so
yeah.
They said, mitigate our risk, lower your rate for 25%. If it gets syndicated, boom, we'll bump you up for the rest of the series, 1, 2, 3, 5, 15 years. And so I'm at the union meeting, a lot of, gruff union guys, Italian guys. They're like, fuck that, I can't afford to work for that. Oh, and we're all like independent contractors, meaning, I'll call Mike or, I'll call Bill. Hey, you want to work on I got this pilot I'm working on. You say no, and I said, hey, guys, if you can't afford to work for just for the 5, 6, 7 weeks, then fucking don't answer your phone or say no. And they're like, screw you, you're not doing this anymore. I was working as an IT recruiter, temporary, waiting for the next movie to come in. So our unions voted it down. So what did Hollywood say? F you, Chicago. And that's what launched the film. Chicago was filmed in Toronto.
That's crazy. So what year was this sent about? You remember?
Around 1995-ish, whatever that movie Chicago was filmed. You guys, I know a lot.
Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense.
We really didn't watch that. I don't know when it was. I didn't watch it. I don't watch musicals.
Well, I gotta say, so a couple of observations. One is that I used to watch this show. You probably watched it too, Terry. Wise Guy, and that was filmed in Toronto.
Ken Wall.
Yeah, Ken Wall, exactly. It was filmed in Toronto, and one of the reasons they filmed it up there, they had to go through quite a bit of expense to make it look like New York. Well, why not just shoot it in New York? But they were trying to get away from the unions, of course. And the unions destroy all kinds of industry, from teaching and our kids. The teachers' unions in our public schools are demonic.
Yeah.
And so just like the Teamsters, you ever go by the Big Dig in Boston, or like they're working on an interstate near where I live, and it's been going on for decades. And it's like, it started out at 2 billion. Now it's 72 billion or whatever it is. Every time you drive by, there's nobody working, or there's one guy turning a screwdriver with 8 guys watching him. And they're all on Cadillac healthcare plans, making $92 an hour as Teamsters. It's a ridiculous Democrat communist money charade. But and so the story about shooting in Toronto, I heard this from a friend who's in the business. They took an alley in Toronto and tried to make it look like a New York alley. So they had to put a bunch of dirt and garbage in there.
Yeah, right.
And so they break for lunch. And they come back, and the Toronto garbage men had cleaned it all out. And they're like, "Well, you cleaned out our New York alley." And then they had to go find more garbage and fix it up again. So these kinds of things happen all the time when they shoot overseas, and it actually turns out to be much more expensive than just shooting in the United States. Duh. I mean, we can all figure that out. But I think what's wrong with Hollywood, in a word, is Disney. That's it. I mean, Disney and like a bunch of pedophiles at Disney. They all want to tell our kids how to be and what sex they want to be and how to have sex at too young an age. And then, it's just so filled with Harvey Weinstein types and Jeffrey Epstein types.
Predators.
Real predators. And so, I mean, Michael, you might be right. It may not be able to be saved, but I'll tell you, Trump's going to do his damnedest.
Yeah, that I have no doubt, and I think he'll do what he can, but I think you really hit the nail on the head. The problem is Disney. The problem is this inserted wokeness into everything, whether that's Snow White and the whatever it is, 7 CGI dwarves, whatever it turned into. But it's also like all these inserts into everything. I get these stories sent to me all the time, with not just with cinema, but with like film, like Law and Order, where they'll have to do a show about the transvestite whatever, and they're always the victim. They always make the villain, the white guy. They had just had one that was kind of supposed to be like the stabbing thing in the UK, but instead they use a white guy as the predator. It's this insert of their viewpoint into absolutely everything. They can't just make something that has traditional American values or shows a real story that like everybody can appreciate. You've always got to have the transgender, differently abled, wheelchair bound, neurodivergent person that identifies as a space toaster, and that somehow has got to get woven into the plot, and then we're all just supposed to pretend that we can still take it seriously, and we can't, because this person's an absolute retard and would never be in a position in law enforcement like that or anything else, not in a normal place. Well, then again, maybe that is what happens now, and that's why LA, New York, Chicago, and these other major cities, these other blue safe havens, are all falling apart.
So I got Ken Wall from Wise Guy. Little side story on that. My cellmate in federal college, when I was in college, federal college, not far from you, is still South Carolina. Bill,
oh wow,
still South Carolina. He ended up marrying Ken Wall's fiance. They broke up, I guess. After that, or in the middle of that, he ended up marrying her. That was a disaster. But that's a whole different show. We could talk about that. So I'd like to talk about Disney. So in that one show with me and Meg Ryan, or one picture of me and Meg Ryan, that was on the set, I think, of Prelude to a Kiss. I think that was it. No, the shirt I had a tank top on. I forgot which one it was. We had to sign contracts with Disney. And Disney, there were so many of them. Maybe Dolly Parton. I don't remember which one it was. Jesus. We had to sign a contract in Disney. We won't smoke cigarettes. We won't wear tank tops. You try to tell an Italian in the summer not to wear a Dago tee. Are you kidding me? We all had to sign contracts that we would not wear. We wouldn't drink during the union guys too. Oh my God, they got drunk. We wouldn't drink. We wouldn't smoke. We wouldn't wear tank tops during the filming. The crew, just the crew.
I mean, that's
Disney turned into now, right?
Yeah,
they're worried about their image. And now they're doing transvestite shit on kids shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, they used to have standards.
Yeah, old Walt Disney, he was a solid Republican. He's doing 360s in his grave right now because they've totally perverted his company. Used to be a great company, and nobody wants to go and hear go to their amusement parks and hear Dumbo talking about transgender. Are you a little boy or a little girl? I mean, it's really devious and sinister what they do. From the subliminal stuff with the clouds in Aladdin and all this kind of stuff. It's just these people have to be stopped and locked up for a good long time, or chemically castrated, whatever you do to these people. But they've got to stop, and they're part of the cultural sickness of this country.
Well, you bring out something interesting there, actually, because Disney's kind of had a. Yeah, I guess we used to think the perversion when it was inserted into stuff like the stuff from The Little Mermaid and The Lion King and what is it, the Aristocrats, where they had like a pornographic image in a couple of frames on a wall somewhere. I don't even remember where that is now, but yeah, there's like a pornographic image on a poster in this cartoon. Before we used to think these were like lone people in the studio that, thought they were funny or just wanted to pervert stuff. But, the more I look at it, I think this was something that was always existed there as under the surface, or maybe nobody wanted to believe it, in the 80s and even into the early 90s, when for the most part, what Disney was putting out was still decent. Even Aladdin, despite the, perversion that got inserted into it, or The Little Mermaid, same thing, they were still good films. You could still let your kids could watch Aladdin today, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at some point, something changed, and the perversion within Disney kind of went mainstream, and that became the objective of what they were making instead of something that some lone wolf might have inserted.
Yeah, I have another comment. I know that Bill talked about the unions, the craziness stuff, right? To help you understand. So I'm all for. Bill, I was raised Southwest side Italian, Democrat, Union family. My Italian side, my mom's side of the family, all Italians. And my last name is, my dad's Polish, French, Norwegian, mostly Polish. And little side conversation, the Italian side kept getting me in crime when I was younger. The Polish side kept getting me caught, so I had to get a real fucking job because it wasn't working out for me. So I worked on a movie called Dennis the Menace. And
wow.
I worked on the shooting crew, meaning like when we would set up on the sets, right? The lights and stuff when the stars come out, and during the shooting crew, that's a shooting crew. Then they have what's called a rigging crew that would set up ahead of time for the big exteriors. But before you do the shooting crew, they build the sets, right? So when you do a production in Chicago, LA, or whatever, they have the sets, the interior sets. It could be the bedrooms, like Dennis the Menace's house and all that stuff.
Sure.
So I worked as a laborer because I'm not a crafted skill. They have these really skilled guys that build all these sets. So I worked as a laborer because I'm not too proud to be a shooting crew guy to make extra money while we're building the sets. And once the sets are done, then they would do some of the exteriors and stuff, right? So I wanted to make money instead of sitting on my ass. And so I worked as a laborer. And then back then, if I remember correctly, they had a certain amount of laborers that work with X amount of carpenters. So I go and show up, and there's 6 laborers. There was not enough work for one laborer because the formula of, you got X amount of carpenter. Well, that means you got to hire 6 of our laborers.
Yeah.
There was so little work that we were bored to death. And we worked 12. The shortest our contract is 12 hours, right? But the shortest we work is 12 hours per day. So that, that's a minimum that you work. And you got 6 guys working 12 hours a day with enough work for one day, right? Another thing that they do is say we're the producers in Hollywood and we're doing a film that shoots in Los Angeles and Chicago, right? You go back and forth, and we're the producers. So we hire, our director of photography, our director, our stunt coordinator, our key grip, right? You heard about that, the gaffer, set decorator, whatever. So we hire them. We're doing our shooting in LA, and then we go to Chicago, and we have the crew that we hire that we know. Oh, well, you got to hire a matching for every one of those from LA, meaning 2 key grips, 2 gaffers, 2 stunt coordinators,
2 best boys.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what the best boy is, but I don't want to be the best boy.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Well, I think now.
What was that?
I think it means something different now with all the wokeness and stuff.
Well, I saw the same thing I was a rock and roll roadie. And whenever you go into a big venue, like the bands I worked for were typically smaller bands who'd be opening up for the Aerosmiths and the Metallicas and stuff. And so it was every time you go into a Madison Square Garden or Nassau Coliseum or any bigger venues, they'd say, okay, you can't touch your cases. Teamsters have to wheel them in.
Oh, I got
it. And then they'd be like, oh, we'd be like, oh, okay, but we do this all the time. They're like, oh, no, we do it. And then they take you up there, and then you try to open a case and get like out some guitars or something. And they're like, no, we got to do that. And we're like, no, we don't trust you with the guitars. They're like, hey, it's the rule. So it's almost like they're forcing the people who know what they're doing, and they're supposed to know how to do everything. So they're just doubling up on the expense of everything, basically.
So you brought another good point to me about the film business. I've got the worst memory in the world. The 1980s were so bad on my brain. Between the fights and everything else, I can't remember anything. But so when you go on the set, I'm a motion picture studio mechanic. You have the Screen Actors Guilds, the actors, the stuntmen. Then you have, I forgot, the cameramen are in a separate union. Then you have the Teamsters that you just mentioned, right? That you saw, what's his name from the Teamsters talking today, right? That's supporting Trump.
Yeah. Sean, what is it? Sean O'Keefe? No.
Sean Finn. Sean, I don't know.
Sean Fain. That's right. It's like Sinn Féin from Ireland. That's right.
Yeah. So, so matter of fact, if you remember, 65% of the union guys wanted to support and vote for Trump. That prick did not endorse him, but they did not endorse Kamala Harris. Remember?
That was a big move. Yeah, that was a big move.
Yeah, their lack of endorsing her was a big move, but the prick still didn't listen to his union people that were paying the dues, right? 65% wanted, and he wouldn't do that, which is, I'm glad he didn't endorse her, but it's still a prick move. So anyway, the way it works on the sets, I talk about those up. Then there's the Teamsters. So the Teamsters have everything on wheels, and I probably got some of my union friends watching. They're gonna get all pissed off. But the Teamsters, everything that moves, like when you drive the trucks up. You ever see all those trucks on the streets and stuff, right? And you got the movies, Wheels in Motion, all that stuff. So they drive all those trucks, and it has to be a union guy. There might be little pickups where we have a big set and a location on an exterior. We might have to take one lamp to here or over there. Well, they'll have a guy, a Teamster, that sits in a pickup truck to move one light all day. He's like sitting in the truck all day, right? And then you get, after a certain amount of 6 hours. Was it 8 hours? You get time and a half, 12 double time. And you got to feed us every 6 hours. If you don't feed us every 6 hours with the nice food truck and the catering, then you get penalized. And all those things add up. Now, but when you look back at these prick actors and how much money they make too, guy, right? I want people, so guys, don't get mad at me. I want everyone to make as much money as they can, but I don't want to be filthy pigs that rip off businesses and stuff like that, right? So some of that stuff is bullshit, right? And it gives you a bad reputation. So if you don't like it, too bad. So
go ahead, Mike. Go ahead, Michael.
All right. Oh yeah, and this is the model you see everywhere. That's why you start seeing movie production going to Georgia and other states that didn't have these that are right to work states where the unions don't have the power and they can't grift off of everybody there. That's the real problem. When you drive the price up that much by requiring companies to hire all these extra people that don't do anything, don't contribute anything, all it does is run the cost up. Then, of course, they're going to look for alternatives. And, you got the same thing going on in Hollywood with the 30-mile zone. If it's outside of 30 miles from whatever that point is, then the rates go skyrocket through the roof. But yeah. I don't know that this tariff is enough to save Hollywood with all the bad decisions they've made, because it isn't just Chicago, it's all over. Even Orlando, when I lived down there, they were shooting, there was some stuff that Universal and Disney shot locally, but a lot of it they do elsewhere or out of the country because it was cheaper.
Well, I think I know where Trump got the idea for this. He actually comes up with these ideas. It's not like his people are going to him and saying, hey, how about we do a 100% tariff on movies to save Hollywood? Actually, most of the creativity in the Trump administration is Trump. And so being from New York as he is, and, I got to say, I heard some TV people in New York talking about this. And it's like, it used to be everywhere you'd go in New York, you'd bump into like catering on the streets. They'd be shooting movies all over New York. You'd bump into that. You don't even see that anymore. And I have a feeling Trump, experienced that, or felt that or saw that, and he just decided, wow, we've got to really just get Hollywood back into things and change them around a little bit.
Bill, that's exactly the same thing here in Chicago. Not since I've been in this new business and sales and stuff in Chicago, I would be downtown. I'd love it in the summertime. You walk with you've got a new customer, and the streets are blocked off for the movies, and I'm like, hey, you want to go on the movie set? They're like, kidding me? I'm like, yeah, I know all those guys. There's I don't even see them anymore. I mean, I haven't seen a film crew in ages in the city of Chicago, and they are taking business away. And then China has so much control over it. And I think we all know that, right? Over the NBA, the film industry.
Oh, yeah.
Can't say. So that stuff needs to be done. It needs to be done. The problem I think they're going to face is, so if we keep them here and we force these other studios to pay a higher tariff and stuff, we're still going to have the whack jobs that are writing the scripts and the writers and producers. And hopefully Trump's going to have some influence on them to keep from pushing this crazy shit on our kids. And trying to,
I think that's definitely right. And I think, I don't know what the turnaround time is on a movie, 18 months. I don't know how long it takes them to get one in the can and start ready to, release it. But I do want to mention Angel Studios. I'm writing an article on them now for Newsmax, and they're just a total game changer in the culture of movies. First of all, they put out good family movies. And when I go to the movie theater to see an Angel Studios movie like Sound of Freedom, or The Chosen was originally started by Angel Studios, and lots of great movies they put out that you can take the kids to see without any fear for nonsense cropping up. They put out the first prepper movie, Homestead. And like, it's amazing how they do it. They also crowdsource their feedback on it. So I was speaking to some of the people there, and they were like, well, I can't tell you. They have a thing called the Guild, where people pay a subscription. They get to see all the movies early and then comment on them. And so I was like, yeah. So do you actually follow what people say? And they're like, yeah, we actually had 3 or 4 movies where we thought they were for sure hits, and then we got this feedback from people, and they were like, no, don't. This is not a good one to pursue. And so, they're just, it's a whole new ballgame when it comes to family and American values movies with Angel Studios. And I think, it's going to be like they're saying right now, people in Canada are looking at, they're disrespecting the national anthem. They're going to get theirs, but they're looking at stuff. And if it says made in America, they're not buying it. Well, I think American consumers are going to start saying, if it's made in France, if it's made in Germany, if it's made in Canada, if it's made in Mexico, we're not buying it. And the same thing will happen with movies, because it's kind of, if you're looking for it, it's kind of obvious it was made by the Krauts or the Frogs or the Canucks or whomever, And so I think people will start, buying with their feet, or not buying their feet.
Voting with their wallet.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're both right. And I agree, like Angel Studios and, what's it called? The other studio that's affiliated with,
Lionsgate?
Matt Walsh and their company.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Daily Caller.
Yeah, Daily Caller. Their film side of the business, like they're actually making good material, good movies that people want to see, and they're doing it at bargain basement prices. So when they do have a hit, it actually generates a good return for all the investors. They're back to doing it. It's like guerrilla studio stuff out in the street where they just get it done and doing it right. And like you said, talking to the fan base, having them give the thumbs up, thumbs down on a script or changes to a film. So it's getting it back into the people's hands. Building that relationship. I think that's going to be the next big boon in Hollywood or in movies and entertainment. Is going to be these small studios that are actually making products the American people want to see again. Because Hollywood, until there's a major shift over there, I mean, they're cooked. I can't even think of the last good film I watched out of Hollywood within the last several years. Maybe Batman, I guess. The Batman was probably the last most recent one I saw that I actually liked out of Hollywood.
I worked on that in Chicago when I was in this business. So I got another example of production costs, how the production costs shrunk over the technology in the innovation and film business. So when I worked, we had those big HDMI lights, right? We'd have 12K lights. We even sometimes, depending on the director of photography, they'd have an arc light. Do you guys know what an arc light is?
Yes.
Old fashioned, so an arc light for the people watching is like massive, right? And it's like a welding light. It's crazy. on an arc, and it's like that.
Yeah, you're literally burning up an electrode as it generates light.
Right. So then we had the HDMI lights and stuff, right? So then when I got into this business in 95, I would still work once in a while around the weekend, right? Just to be around my friends and be on a movie set. I was on Batman. I forgot which one it was. And then when I worked on, I went back and like one of the last years and one of the almost last episodes of ER that was filmed in Chicago for a long time. So like if we do a film exterior, right, of a street, the actors are walking down or out of a building, right? Well, we would go up. I worked on Hoffa, right? We had like 12 condors, man lifts that would go up these massive 12K lights, big 12K HDMI lights, and shoot down on the set when they were fighting and stuff, right? And so I'm on the set of ER, and it was a dark SUV. Guy gets shot, and they pull him inside the SUV. And I go, where's all the condors, the man lifts, and the lights? And they're like, oh, well, we're using digital now. They're laughing at me. I go, well, it doesn't need as much light at all. So think about, the labor costs went down dramatically because of the technology, the cameras, right? Big time. So they could capture and use less light. And then when they were filming the guy that got shot, and we would go inside the vehicles when we'd shoot back when I was there, and they put like the Kino flow, I think they call them. The lights were everywhere, lightening up inside the vehicles, and it was supposed to be a dark scene, but you had so many lights, and then it comes out differently on the film. But they had very little light inside the vehicle because of the digital cameras. What does that mean? Less labor, right? Less production labor. So they increased their profits by the technology and the digital cameras and the innovation that helped make it less costly using it. So they made money because of that. And then they wanted to go even further by moving it offshore and taking all these jobs and moving them offshore. Using, I could imagine the Teamsters in European countries probably are paid crap, right? Or compared to what they make here, they make good money,
Yeah. You guys want to jump to this next story here?
Sure.
Yeah, it's funny how Hollywood took over there for a minute, but it was a good conversation about that. It needed to be said.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're right. Honestly, I think that's kind of stuff that, again, we will see results from. I don't think Trump, proposed this tariff on a whim. I'm sure there's a plan. He talked early on in his administration. He appointed, Mel Gibson, and I can't remember who else, as ambassadors to Hollywood, like they're a foreign country. But they basically are now. I mean, they need to get brought back down to earth and start making, again, cinema that people actually want to see, and no more of these, politically motivated, basically self-aggrandizement pieces where they, again, half the cast are disabled lesbian midgets, and somehow that's supposed to turn into a film everybody wants to see.
Yeah, I'm such a bigot. I get a big laugh out of that.
Oh no! Another bigot, a racist, homophobe. Holy cow! I was a Democrat back when I worked in the movies. By the way, sorry.
Well, so was Trump. But you're quite right, Mike. It's like it's crazy because, I think Trump is like, I know the next story that's coming, and I think the thing is that Trump is he says things that people don't take him seriously, like we're going to take over Greenland, and they're like, we don't need a useless island like Greenland, and then he points out, well, it's kind of important for the Arctic and control of the Arctic and shipping lanes and all the valuable minerals, and then all of a sudden people are like, oh wait, he's serious. That's a good point.
Right.
So he just keeps coming up, and that's what the tariffs are all about. The tariffs they're not about penalizing anybody. They're about resetting the global economy, which is like something that's impossible for your normal run-of-the-mill garden variety douchebag politician. Trump has to do this kind of thing. And then ultimately, even bigger than resetting the global economy is making a pariah out of China and making it so they can't sell their crummy, trashy goods anywhere. And the biggest thing of all is eliminating the income tax. Because if Trump can get rid of the income tax, boy, I'll tell you, nobody can complain. You can't hear Schiff, or you can't hear Crockett, or you can't hear AOC or Bernie Sanders start talking about, oh yeah, workers of the world reunite, fight against the oligarchy. Yeah, he just got rid of the income tax, okay?
Yeah, and then that's going to force them to argue for it again, put them in another one of these impossible 80-20 positions. All right, if we eliminate the income tax, it's going to be more than that. It's going to be a 90-10 position. They're going to be forced to argue for more taxes once again on the middle class. And if you're all of a sudden getting 100% of your paycheck, if you're somebody who's making less than $200,000 a year, like all of us and most of the audience, then life's going to be looking pretty good. Doesn't matter what they're whispering in your ear on the mainstream media. You're going to think, hey, I just got a 25% raise. I can now do X, Y, and Z for my family that I couldn't do before. And you're telling me this money needs to go back to the federal government so we can ensure that they can finance sex changes and pango. Yeah, they're not going to get on board with that. Not a chance.
Yep.
Yeah, I am kind of a homophobe. Speaking of which, I hear there's a lot of... never mind, I won't even make that joke. Trump's going to make Alcatraz great again. This is an illustration of what it might look like. We might see a big, beautiful gold hotel out there. But I think this is a great idea. I think this is brilliant. And I think this is a great place to stick all these... political judges that are assuming the powers of the White House right now. Maybe we throw them in there with TDA and MS-13, and then we see if they still are in favor of the rulings that they've made previously.
I would love that. I would love that.
Yeah, I think it's such a great idea. Trump's the master of taking a useless piece of real estate and making it functioning again. Make useless real estate great again. He's so funny like that. I mean, his mind is constantly like, he'll look at an empty Superfund lot and he'll be like, this could be a resort, and he'll be like, it'll require a little cleanup, but we'll get that done quickly. It's like crazy. The guy I've just never seen anything like it. Now, I don't think he's like perfect, and I think the hat is a little wrong. That Trump was always right about everything. I think he makes some mistakes, and I can call him when he makes mistakes. I make mistakes all the time. We all do. Yeah. But I'll tell you, by and large, that guy is really an incredible individual.
Oh, he is. So like the way I explained, the first time I voted for Donald Trump is I voted for him not because of who he is, because of who he isn't, right? Because of who he. When I first saw him coming down the escalators, I'm like, this guy doesn't have a chance. I swear to God. I didn't really like him from The Apprentice. I liked him, but I didn't like him. I don't know. I liked him, but I didn't really like him, but I liked him.
Yeah.
And I was like, he don't have it. That's a joke, right? And then, as they started progressing and stuff, and I'm like, I like what he says, and I never was like a big deep state. I used to make fun of preppers. Now I did a 180. Totally. It's like weird. And I'm like, I voted for him because of who he wasn't. Then the next time I voted for him because of who he was and what he'd done. Right.
Yes.
So I don't think he does everything right, like what you said, Bill, but Jesus Christ, he does so many things right. That's helping us change the future for our children, for our country, for the world. And I don't understand these whack job leftists. There's two types of Democrats, those that are purposely trying to hurt our country. Right. And my mom and dad that were Democrats, they're 85. They're not anymore. My dad worked for the city and stuff. And there's the ones that my mom and dad's friends that are just too fucking stupid. They don't know better. Sorry, I swear a lot. Not that much. I stopped, but they're too stupid. But to me, it doesn't matter if you're purposely trying to ruin America or you're just too stupid and unevolved. The outcome, the consequences for my children are the same. So you're my enemy. You're an enemy of mine. I swear. I don't talk to some family members, and I feel that they're destroyed. They're like a cancer destroying the future of my children's future. And I'm in a war, and I'm acting like I'm in a war.
So I've been interviewing President Trump by the phone since I started in January 2023. And during our conversations, I guess the first thing is how authentic he is. You get that at a press conference. You get that, he's so authentic, which is just not the way politicians are at all. They're slimy and they're, untrustworthy and all these kinds of things. Trump has none of that. But what's come across even more than that during our phone conversation, how much he cares. He cares about this country. He cares about the people he meets. He just had the ballerina that got back from Russia in his office, I think, this morning. And like, she was just like in total awe. He gets these people out. He's gotten 47 people out of Americans out of these other wasteland countries where they're being held prisoner in less than 100 days or thereabouts. I mean, he's just a machine, but he cares. He's got such an emotional side. And the other thing that I think the press overlooks is he's a man of deep faith. I mean, like you could look at the Donald Trump story and not know anything about him from New York. Maybe you're from Chicago, maybe you're from somewhere else, and you don't know the whole long extended story of when he was the toast of the town in New York. And he used to go to a church there where Dr. Norman Vincent Peale was the pastor, power of positive thinking. And he's always been a guy of faith, but he just doesn't pitch it. He doesn't do photo ops like the Clintons do with their Bibles on the front of the church steps. They're obviously not religious people. They're obviously godless heathens. But the thing about Trump is he's a man of faith, and he believes in a higher power, God and Jesus Christ. And so a lot of people are like, oh, he got shot in the ear. All of a sudden he's a big believer. No, he was always a believer. So there's all these things about Trump that people don't know. I don't know everything about him. I'm looking forward to, I hope I get to discover more about this guy, because he will go down in the history books.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. There's a friend of mine from Central Illinois named Shane Beauvais. He's got a book, Man Misunderstood. I don't know if you guys saw it, with President Trump endorsed it. Did you guys see that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so Shane, matter of fact, I'm going to the White House with him in July 19th. I had to fill out all the paperwork and stuff, which is kind of cool.
Oh, but nice. That's awesome.
Trump gave him, and I forgot the whole backstory, right? He got $10,000, and then Shane gave it to his father, and because his father had cancer, and then he found out about it, and then he invited him and his father, and then Mr. Trump, and he didn't even put this out in the press, helped pay off some of the hospital bills, right?
Yeah.
And scumbag politicians were trying to say it was a big stunt and stuff. I don't know how they found out, and they called Shane, and it wasn't a stunt. And he just wrote this book that just came out, A Man Misunderstood. And I'm supposed to go with him to the White House. I'm kind of excited about it. I highly respect the guy. I think before he was even shot, I considered him on par with a war hero before he was shot, because the man sacrificed so much for us, our children, our country. He's unlike Barack Hussein Obama and those other scumbags that come in with nothing and walk out, and they make so much money. Him and his family suffered dearly because of what these scumbags on the left did to this man, his business, his family, his reputation. The guy is a hero. I don't care if he's perfect. He's a hero, and he sacrificed for it.
Amen, brother.
Well, that's the other thing. And real quick, Bill, I think we lost your camera somehow.
Yeah, I thought it was just me. I didn't want to say anything.
Should I re-enter?
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't do that yet. And honestly, if the screen's out, well, I mean, you can leave and come back if you want. I can just add you back in.
Yeah, re-enter. I want to see your mug up there. Oh, man, you're going to get in trouble. You got blackface now.
He's going to get canceled for real. But yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, and going back to the first election for Trump in 2016, I kind of held my nose and voted for the guy because he was, like you said, he was saying all the right things, but I didn't expect him to accomplish them. I didn't think that he would do what no other politician's done in recent memory and actually run on the things that he planned to do. But I think Trump got screwed in his first term, that you had a lot of deep state operatives. I think he was kind of naive going into things. He expected, hey, welcome back, Bill.
There you are.
He kind of expected the party to coalesce and move forward with his agenda instead of stabbing in the back every step of the way. But the more I look back at it, the stolen election in 2020 really turned out to be a blessing, because I think that gave Trump and everybody around him, everybody else part of the America First movement, that gave us 4 years to coalesce and make a plan. And that's why we've seen this just whirlwind of action since the inauguration. And now, I think some people think that this reopening Alcatraz, that's just something Trump said. That's just him talking. It's bluster. But I think he's serious. And I think there's a reason for it. We might not know what it is yet, but he does always seem to have a plan and a reason he's doing these things. And heck, here's another thing. It's a tourist attraction now. Maybe we can just, again, we'll fill it full of these treasonous leftists, and maybe we can still hold tours there. Maybe we can bring back stockades, put those there, and then we can get rid of some rotten tomatoes in their yard.
They got a great view of San Francisco. I don't know if you guys ever been there. I was there before, but unfortunately, I was like going through PTSD walking through that place. I was like, I got to get out of here. Get me on the boat.
Yeah, I bet. Oh man. Now I actually never went out there. I've been to San Francisco a few times and I've seen it from the waterfront, but never made it out to Alcatraz yet.
Yeah, it's like, when you hear about those guys that won the raft, I think there's 3 of them. It's like,
Yep.
no way they made it through there. I don't know. They're supposed to be alive somewhere.
Yeah, they never found the bodies, but yeah, I'm not sure if the 3 made it. I was like, was it Frank Morris? I can't remember the other ones. I just remember the Clint Eastwood movie, so that name stuck with me. But yeah, I think they made it out personally, because I think otherwise they would have found bodies, because they did find the rowboat and they found it on shore, and I think it was far enough that they don't think it was deposited by the tide. They think a person brought it ashore, tried to hide it in some shrubs or something. I don't know. I could be thinking of 2 different things. But yeah, I remember watching a video on this years and years ago, and the same thing. A lot of the detectives, either they declared that they were probably died at sea after like investigating for 6 years. I think they probably made it. Otherwise, they would have found the bodies.
Yeah, I took my family there 10 years ago. My twins are seniors in high school with my wife, and the bums were like everywhere back then. It got worse since then, right? Because of this.
Oh, I've heard.
City. And I was taking pictures, like they had people. It was just disgusting. I was gonna make a calendar called "The Bums of San Francisco" and sell that, because we had all these like action shots of hobos, bums, crapping on themselves and sleeping in suitcases, and it's like crazy. And there's needles there, and it's like I'm walking around with my 8 or 9-year-old children, and beautiful San Francisco. It was crazy.
Well, I like Michael's idea of turning it into like an aquarium tour for the kids. Like, Dad, what did this awful looking guy do? Oh, he was a pedophile. He was involved with Harvey Weinstein in Hollywood, and he was raping children. Oh, can I spit on him, Dad? Yeah, sure. Feel free. It's part of the tour. I mean, that's a great idea. And then
Here's
the other
25
thing
cents for a rotten tomato, and then you can throw it at Adam Schiff.
Oh, totally. And yeah, you're right. We got to put some of the white collar politician criminals in there too. Absolutely. But I think Trump mentioned it this morning. It's so amazing the way he's just blown away all the White House communications and press conferences. I mean, I'm just in love, literally in love with the idea that we get to go into cabinet meetings and hear all the cabinet secretaries talking and like talking about what they're doing. And Musk is over there wearing 2 hats and, Bay of America, Gulf of America, and, dark MAGA. He's so funny. And like the whole thing is like, you never see it in another administration. They would never allow it because it gives insight into who these people really are. And I just love it. But earlier today, Trump said during a press conference, I think he was sitting with Carney, this globalist banker from Canada, who's probably worse than Trudeau. He said, yeah, only I think one guy almost made it, but they found his shredded clothes, like they found his shredded clothes in the water like sharks. Trump just inserts that into the conversation in front of the press and in the global, like, you can see some kid in Portugal like say, Mommy, they have sharks there? What happened? And then all of a sudden researches the whole story. I mean, it's just Trump is like, he's the master, man. He's so funny and so good.
He's funny. He's like, he earns respect. I heard Pence speak today on the radio on Fox. I don't know Fox, whatever.
Yeah.
Listen to that turd. I'm like, the guy disgusts me, right? I mean, he's so phony, right? Everything every single little word is planned, and it disgusts me. I mean, I hate that type of politician. I didn't even like him before when Trump had him, but I really despised him after January 6th and being there and saw all those things that he tried to do to undermine Donald Trump. Right now, he's like, oh, me and Mr. Trump had a great, the Trump-Pence campaign was really good, and we had a great, we did great things for the country. And you listen to this little puke, and I swear to God, I'd love to punch him in the face. Well, no, I was only joking. It's joking. There's a joke.
Well, no, Judas Pence is a real thing. And, like I wish Trump had found a way to just dump him. I don't know, execute the 25th Amendment with his cabinet against Pence and get rid of him halfway through his first term, because Pence is just he's like an empty suit, right? Like,
yes.
Phony piece of awful.
Constantly with the Christian stuff, and like I consider myself to be a man of faith. I do the best I can. I'm not perfect. I know the areas I got to work on. I'm a work in progress. But you listen to that guy, and he thinks he has it all figured out. Like he's a representative on earth of Jesus, and like it's it's just so phony. I can't take that guy anymore. He's always trying to rehabilitate himself. Fox News is always trying to rehabilitate him too. They're always like, "Oh yeah, we have Vice President Pence on. Come in, he's going to give us some real insight into President Trump." He never
Terry,
does.
I think you really nailed it. Like everything that comes out of Pence's mouth sounds like it's focus group. Like they ran it by 30 people. They changed the language. They tried to make it as unoffensive and vanilla as possible. And there's so many people like that. Where they just say things that are scripted, whereas Trump is always off the cuff and real. I think it's part of what people like about him. Something you said, Bill, I think this is also why the media has to hate him right now. Because if they gave him any love, his personality alone, this guy would be a rock star. His approval numbers would be at 70% if you didn't have the mainstream media constantly twisting everything that's done or presenting it in the worst possible light. The fact that, again, it isn't necessarily that they lie all the time, though I do think that's part of it. It's that they choose a perspective that is as unflattering as humanly possible, no matter how unrealistic that is. They always bet on the worst, and then that's why it blows up in their face. That's why nobody trusts them or believes them anymore, because they always only focus on that side of the coin. And I've talked about this over and over again, like during the election, 89% of coverage from the dinosaur media on President Trump was negative, while 87% of coverage on Kamala Harris was positive. And even the average middle-of-the-road normie can watch the news and know something's not right when that's how their coverage is presented night after night after night.
What pisses me off is that we're in a war right now with the tariffs and everything. Think about World War II, and our grandfathers and so forth went to battles, 17, 18 young people, right? And the sacrifices they made. We're in a war now. We got our media siding with our enemies, right? They're siding with our enemies. We should come together and stay strong and try to keep us, say, hey, we're willing to fight. We'll sacrifice. We'll suffer. You got the little soft beta males will give up their cappuccinos and stuff, and we'll rough through it. But they're not doing that. They're making our enemies who want to fight us and prolong these tariffs. They're going to sit back and say, you know what? Trump's going to collapse pretty soon because the public's going to turn against him. And the media is doing their work to help them, make our battle less effective because they're trying to destroy us from within.
Well, Terry, they're literally running Chinese propaganda on state media right now here in the U.S. on all your usual dinosaur outlets, and they're trying to make it sound like the U.S. is on the verge of a collapse because of this trade war with China, whereas the Chinese people, they have resolve. They're used to tough times, when it couldn't be further from the truth. I mean, there's literally riots in some of these cities right now along the northern Mongolian border in China, and otherwise, people are exiting Beijing. They're leaving a lot of younger workers. They're calling it, laying down dog people, I think is what the term is. Might be rat people. That they're basically sitting things out now, and they're tired of this themselves. They were promised wages. They were promised a future. They want what we have in the West. They can't possibly earn it as slaves for these corporations in China, and they're sick of it too. They're willing to take this collapse right now. There's a lot of them that are owed money and owed back wages. Beijing can't do anything about it. They can only hold out for a couple more weeks. So we need to stick to their guns and just completely break China now. But again, we have our media pushing out Chinese propaganda, trying to line up our country against Trump, so we'll back down on these tariffs because that would be good for China and good for all these companies that want to keep using slave labor overseas, sending our resources to other countries. Well, they get fat and happy, and the American people get screwed over.
Well, I think so. Trump is barking up the right tree with the tariffs. He's snarling up the right tree. He really is. And I think already you see the whole world is coming to the Oval Office right now. They're all visiting him. They're begging like, oh, you're busy on the 16th. Can I come on the 17th? Oh, you're having Japan there? Okay. How about the 18th? Can I come then? And if you're Cambodia or Vietnam, who were charging us 97% tariff rates, I don't know what we were buying from them, but it was probably just like we'll charge them 97%. They don't buy anything from us anyway. The point is that Trump is really, Michael, I like what you said. The idea of a possibility, just a whisper, a hint of the Chinese 1.4 billion people rising up against a small minority of globalist tyrants that are there. And I think the same thing, how they always talked about in Iran, like the Obama administration during the uprising there, they didn't help them. They suppressed it. for the mullahs. And so that's happened from time to time. I think the Iranians yearn to breathe free, and the Chinese yearn to be free. I just dream of. I have a fever dream about what'll happen to Xi and all of his cronies if those 1.4 billion people march on Peking. It'll be delicious.
Yeah.
So I hope that happens. And I think the populism that Trump is feeding now all over the world, you know, in Western Europe, you and I saw when we were in Brussels, like, you know, you got Le Pen, you got Orban, you got Meloni in Italy, and she's like Trump in high heels. And you got Farage. I hope Farage can, you know, get off his duff and run for prime minister, because we got to replace this pedophile Keir Starmer. But the point is, I think that the freedom we're now experiencing in the United States, that we're getting back to the freedom we always had, I think that's going to start spreading like wildfire all over the place. And I think you're right. It may take a little while, but I think China is going to overthrow their government, and I hope they do.
I hope so. I've been thinking that as well. Another thing is, you know, Poland. I love the way they're fighting back, right? So
yes,
until this woman became president of Italy, and I forgot her name. You just mentioned her.
Yeah, Meloni.
Yeah, I was ashamed of the Italians, right? I mean, they're letting all those
boat migrants in, destroying the country.
And the Polish side, oh my God, they're like fighting left and right, saying screw you, keep them out, right? And look how safe their country is compared to the rest of Europe, because we're supposed to, diversity makes us stronger. No bullshit. There's nothing wrong being diverse, fair, equality, and all that shit. But don't sit here and tell us that we got to flood our borders and open borders with people from all over the world, and that's going to make us stronger. Bullshit. My grandparents came from Italy, and they took care of themselves, the family members, and everybody took care. And in each generation, we did better. These scumbags are coming in expecting us to house them, give them credit cards, foods, educate them and all this other shit. And then we got the Democrats and the Europeans trying to tell us that we need open borders to make us stronger and better. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
I love the Poles. I love the Poles too. I got to say, I lived in England for 8 years, and outside of London, there's a Polish war memorial, because, when the writing was on the wall about what Hitler was doing to Poland, a lot of them got out. Some of them were Polish Jews. Some of them were Polish Catholics. It depended on what their religious affiliation was, but they were all Polish people. And a lot of them emigrated to England. And the reason there's a Polish war memorial outside of London is because these Poles came to London and worked any job they could find, and then enlisted in the British military and fought against Hitler.
Yeah,
and
Hitler.
it was an amazing story of repatriation of people who escaped a murderous tyrant, and then just fought back from afar and went back in with the English lads.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a great thing. I love the Poles too. And then of course Pope John Paul II. It doesn't get any better than that. I'm not even Catholic, but I'm an Episcopalian. But I can appreciate a pope like that. This new guy with the half staff and everything. How long do we have to grieve this guy? This March, this guy. How long are we supposed to grieve him? It's like, reminds me of John Lewis and and all these other people that we have to grieve, and then they have an airport named after him. We barely got Reagan National, So it's crazy, but I do like the Poles too, Terry. I really do.
Bill, I'm Catholic, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that bastard's dead. I wish he would have died sooner.
Somebody had to say it, Terry.
My spiritual upbringing and stuff. I was raised a Catholic. I was an altar boy. I'm not a good Catholic, which probably makes me a normal Catholic, because I could go to confession on Sunday and start all over on Monday morning. But I'm ashamed of the cat, because I tracked down the Tren de Largua, the legal immigration, the Catholic charities. I've got so much stuff on them and how they were putting up these illegal Venezuelans today. They're part of destroying America and part of the world. And I know I got oh my God, I get all kinds of bullshit from my Catholic friends, Southwest side. We have to stand up and speak out about the Catholic Church being culpable in what's going on to our country. They're responsible for human sex trafficking. They're taking all this money. They're making a fortune from us. They're getting it from the government, and it's being funneled back to them to destroy our country. They're pushing these illegal Venezuelans everywhere throughout the Chicagoland area in our country, and they're part of destroying it. So you know what? I say screw that Pope. I'm glad that bastard died, and I hope they find somebody better.
I really hope so. Yeah, I agree. Because that's the problem. Is this Pope Francis basically perverted the church and weaponized it against us here in the U.S. and in across Europe with encouraging this unlimited migration from the third world that is either destroyed or destroying a lot of these countries. I think we actually got better off than most places in Europe, that we still are fighting back here. Trump is starting to push people back over the border. We need to see a lot more of it. Our big problem now is we've got to get these courts under control. But yeah, this partnership with Catholic Social Services and Catholic Charities to essentially traffic illegal aliens all over the country. We got to put an end to that and make sure it never happens again. The church is going to pay a huge price for it. They already have, but it's going to get worse.
So,
well, and I think that here's my prediction: we're going to get another woke popester, likely the first black pope. So we'll continue the identity politics in the papal politics in the Vatican, and it's going to be just like the Borgia popes, right? The De Medicis, the Borgia Pope, working with, working with the richest families and, not really religious men at all, sleeping with all kinds of young girls. It's the craziness of that time. But I do also have to balance out my feeling about the Catholic faith and that it's done a lot of good around the world and it continues to do a lot of good. Their missionary work, their school system, there are good Catholic priests. And I think that that somehow we've gotten into this thing. Like I have a bunch of friends who are Irish RC, Irish American RC, and they're all lapsed Catholics. And I asked them why, and they're like, because of the whole pedophile thing. So, but I try to point out that the Catholic Church has done a lot of good. Yes, they've had some bad, just like the American presidency. I mean, look at Woodrow Wilson and Bill Clinton and Obama and Jimmy Carter. I mean, like how long do we have to celebrate the death of Jimmy Carter, who was before Biden, the worst president in American history? It's ridiculous. I wish Trump had not gone to Rome with our great first lady. I wish he hadn't lowered himself, because that Pope said a whole bunch of really vicious things about our president. And so, and the Marxism, and you don't build walls and all this. There's a wall around the Vatican. Shut up already.
Yeah. Yeah, they've got their 40-foot wall. They're prosecuting illegal aliens that come through, enter the Vatican and throwing them out. But yeah, if we do it, we're evil. But we're not supposed to look at, it's do as we say, not as we do. Sorry, Terry, go ahead.
Yeah, Bill, I'm glad you said that about the Catholic Church. So yes, I dogged the Pope and stuff. And friends out there, I don't want to, Catholic Church has done some really good things. When I first started fighting against the porn, some of the biggest supporters have been grandfathered Catholic men that came and showed up, right, when I would go and speak. And then they would do, till the podcast started on Thursdays, I would go meet them at the oldest Catholic church on Thursdays, not every Thursday, as much as I could. And they do the rosary. And they started doing it now it's like 3-4 years ago. And they started going to the church on Thursday nights to pray for their children, their grandchildren in America, because they were so scared about what was happening. Yes. And so I would go meet with them, and like typical, and a lot of, so where I grew up is Southwest Side, Italians and Irish Catholic, right? And so afterwards we go and drink. They bring a little coolers and we drink afterwards. And I'm like, what the hell happened to the Catholic Church? We had the Crusaders. They used to behead Muslims. I can't get enough parents to stand up and speak out against porn, and I told them I was upset with the church and the Pope. And then what they told me is it's not the parishioners, it's the leadership and this and that. I go, I understand, but you guys are too silent. You know what I mean? You're too silent. And I go, it's no different than the 1930s. And no, I'm not considering the Pope to be like Hitler and all that stuff. But the German people during the 30s, they didn't speak up, right? And so they're being culpable they need to speak up and they need to challenge. I don't care, if all the other stuff is good, but we got to call out the bad that's doing so much awful, that's everything that they're doing to their country. We don't have to get into it. And they need to speak out. They can't just go to church and
be silent.
It's happening, and you got to speak out against it. So don't say I don't hate the Catholic Church.
No, we know you don't. I started you off on that. I'm sorry I brought it to bear on that, Terry. But
no, I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying. I do think that the Pope was a piece of shit. He was awful for the church, for the reputation. Chicago had so many. I still get on my Facebook about kids being sexually assaulted in the church. It was a big thing in Chicago, Bill.
Yeah,
I mean, it happened a lot over and over again.
Yeah. Well, I like your point that, Catholics are not Hitler. They're not, or the popes, the papacy, and the cardinals and stuff. They're not Hitler, but they're not Bonhoeffer either. They seem to be somewhere in between. And one of the things that struck me for a long time, I really need to write an article about it. I think there's a good article about it. Is the millions of Catholics in the United States who want to go to the Latin Mass, and the way fake Christians, fake Catholics, just fake Americans like Biden and Pelosi went after these people, and all of a sudden they're domestic terrorists because they want to hear the Catholic Mass in Latin. This is insanity. So I mean, I don't like the way the left in America goes. They don't care if you're Jewish. They don't even care if you're gay or black. They hate a conservative black or gay person. It's crazy the way it's identity politics in reverse, and they've got to be stopped. And I think Trump and hopefully Bondi and Kash Patel will start cleaning things up fast.
Yeah. So where can people find you at, Bill?
Oh, I'm at Relentless Bill almost everywhere. That was a nickname I got from college and my early days working at General Electric. So it kind of stuck. And, the real inside story is I give up on everything. I try to do something and I give up on it immediately. So the name is totally false. No, I don't give up on anything. I don't give up on anything. So I'm at Relentless Bill on most social media, and you can see my columns on Newsmax. And I'm on Newsmax TV quite a bit. So just really loving life and pursuing the bad people in politics and government.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming. It was fun having you on the show. We'll have you back again because there's so much crazy things going on that we could revisit. And would love.
Thanks, Terry. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, and before we go, on Thursday, Mike, you're gonna run the event that we had from the border to our backyards with me and Peter Steele, Ben Berquam, and we had minority speakers from the city of Chicago talking about the devastation of the illegal immigration in Chicago and the cartels in Tren de Largua. So if you're watching, please watch us. We're going to show you the event we had in Chicago last week, and you'll enjoy it. And we're going to show things that have never been seen before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you got to get the Flip Chicago Red people in there. I love those people. Those black ladies.
She was there.
Oh man, they're just righteous. You got to love those people. They're like so sick and tired of the Bill Daley politics, the Barack Obama politics of Chicago. So God bless you guys.
Bill, me and I will talk offline. Me and Ben Berquam ambushed JB Pritzker, Mayor Johnson. We had 1.5 million views on that. I'll send that to you. It's funny. We went to one. We got inside. We couldn't believe it. We ambushed them.
What a disgusting blob Pritzker is. He thinks he's going to run for president. Good luck, buddy.
Dude, he's not running anywhere. That's obvious. But he hasn't done any running in a very long time. Guys,
so true.
Thank you for joining us tonight. Please like, share, and subscribe. Help us to grow so we can bring more people the news the mainstream media doesn't want you to hear. And we'll be back on Thursday with more.
Thank you.